Hello. How are we all doing this evening? How's things? How's life? How's the universe? How has your week been? Um, hello? I should probably get the chat up, that would be helpful. Where's the chat? Hello. How is everybody doing? Here we go. Let me make that one. A bit wider so I can actually read some of the messages. Hello. Andy was a bit late and I was not. Weird. Well, late is a relative term. I was just doing a validation run on another OSRTC Pro that was sold and took slightly longer than I was expecting, so my apologies. Yeah. My right eye blew up again. So I can't really read without covering one eye, so my apologies. Hello John, hello Simon, hello Lucky Man, and hello Ish. How you guys doing? How's things? Hello from Saudi Arabia. Hello. How you doing? How's things? How's my week been? Well, today was awful. Because I woke up in most of some of the most pain I've had in my eyes, and it lasted for a lot longer than I'm used to, which is annoying. I think the problem is it happened a little bit later in the day. Or, well, I suppose, well, it normally happens while I'm sleeping, and what normally happens is it wakes me up sometime around like 6 o'clock, which is sort of very early for me. And what that means is that I can like get up, have a shower, have some breakfast, and then have some ibuprofen, which helps numb the swelling, and that's good. And then I can put some of the sort of special cream I have in the eye, and then like go back to sleep, downstairs, whatever. And then when I wake up, that the sort of recovery period of the ibuprofen kicking in and the like eye ointment doing its job, means that when I wake up, it's normally not quite as bad, and then it's a relatively short sort of recovery period from waking up again to then being able to mostly function. Whereas today, it woke me up at like 8:30, which is basically when I get up anyway. So I still did the whole, get up and have a shower and then have food, like breakfast, and then some ibuprofen. But because it was, when I should really be up anyway, I couldn't just put some cream in and fall back asleep. So I just had to bear through like 2 hours of pain and suffering. But anyway, yeah, that's me. Hello, Harry. How you doing, man? David Evans. Hello. What two-factor authentication do you think is the most user-friendly? So Google Authenticator is the one that I use the most, although I think Authy tends to be more user-friendly. I probably shouldn't show you Authy because you can work out what the codes are, but it tends to be a little more user-friendly. I only have it for 3 different things. Twitch is one of them, but and I think with Authy you can transfer, whereas with Google Authenticator they are linked to your phone, and then you have to just reset up your authenticator whenever you change phones, which is a lot more of a hassle. Ish says, I reckon SMS is the easiest. T-top probably best. Email requires separate login, then hardware token. Well, so the problem with the SMS is that it's really easily spoofed and hijacked, basically, which is functionally means that it's not useful, right? Because if the effort of breaking the two-factor authentication is minimal, then you functionally don't have two-factor authentication. Whereas at least with, you know, Google Authenticator or Authy or whatever, there's, while I think you can still you know, get around it if you try real hard, it's more difficult to do. SMS is easily spoofed, but only high value targets really get spoofed. Most people wouldn't be attacked like that. Yeah, you're right. But if you're gonna, you know, the question is, what's the, where is it? Is it most user friendly? Better SMS and no two-factor authentication. Yeah. I mean, it is another step for both you and any potential attackers. So, yes, you are right. But if you're going to go to the effort of setting something, ideally, that's not SMS up, Google Authenticator is normally the one that, well, I use for most stuff, even though I probably shouldn't. And Authy is perfectly decent. I used two-factor authentication on most important stuff. Still had my MasterCard data stolen a couple weeks back. Interesting. I hope that's easily resolved. I'm only thinking about two-factor authentication apps since Twitter's decided to cancel its two-factor authentication and its infinite wisdom. Yes, I saw. Yeah. I use Google Authenticator for it. But either of those would be what I would probably recommend. John, what's the weather like in your corner of the UK? Seems like there's going to be 4 to 5 wet days here. It's been quite nice, actually. It's been ridiculously sunny. I've actually stored quite a lot of energy from solar, and that's been good. It's not been insanely warm, but it's definitely too warm to be February. And yeah, disabled it immediately, called the bank to cancel and issue a new one. Luckily, I'm up at 2 AM. Nice. Now just enable the card for a sec while transferring to Revolut and use one-time use cards. Right, nice. With Revolut, if I remember rightly, they may or may not be an accredited bank or something. You might want to look it up, but I've heard some things that might make me cautious of them having access to money. Hello, Essentialist. Hello, Gavin. Are used CPUs a good idea? I don't particularly think so. Well, it kind of depends. If you're looking for, like, it depends what the use case is, depends how old it is, depends what sort of life it's had. So if you're buying a locked CPU, like an Intel non-K SKU, the chances are it's probably had a somewhat easy life. It might have been run relatively hot, you know, it might have been run with like a stock cooler, and therefore that's not great, but it's unlikely to have been overclocked to the point of it functionally breaking. Whereas with unlocked chips, they're more likely, or at least there's more chance that one that's being sold on eBay is one that has been, you know, overclocked the snot out of it, and it's kind of on its last legs, and someone's shifting out the door before it's completely dead and therefore, you know, worthless. But yeah, it also depends on the application, right? So if you're talking about you know, your like main gaming system, again, it depends on age and that sort of stuff. It can be fine. If you're talking about you know, a server build, for example, maybe it's not the best idea because you're looking for something that is ultimately reliable. And and is going to give you as few problems as possible. And you know, from a hobbyist perspective, if you don't mind opening up your system every now and again to troubleshoot a few issues, as long as you're saving a decent amount of money, I don't think it's that bad. The thing that ends up dying more than CPUs is actually the motherboards, because of the complexity of motherboards in terms of just how many damn chips there are, and things like the CMOS battery dying, the NAND flash from the BIOS failing, the capacitors leaking or failing, whatnot, MOSFETs burning out. There's so many things that can go wrong on a motherboard that you'll often find, especially for the really old stuff, you'll find that you can buy chips for days that all perfectly work fine, but you can't find a motherboard that you can put those chips in that will actually run the chips fine. So yeah, CPUs are normally fine as long as they're mostly taken care of. Motherboards, not so much, no matter what you do, really. Apologies for the squinting, like I said. This eye is gone. Almost got charged some online gambling crap. Fair. I mean, I suppose you're gonna steal someone's credit card, why not run up the tab, right? I don't give them my data, just use direct transfer to their IBAN. Yeah, I guess it's more as long as you're not putting more money in than you're immediately spending, like you're not holding your money in Revolut, I suppose that's fine. Although they are getting your, I assume they have your ID and your, spending habits data, as it were. Lots of hoops to jump through for a poor old man. Yeah, fair. I was talking with my beautiful wife, about so in the UK, especially on YouTube, we've been seeing an ad from, I think it's the Treasury or something, which is basically an advert for warning mostly elderly people about scams. Like financial scams, where the ad is like, is this definitely not all that old couple who are very somberly saying, he spoke in a professional tone about investments and retirement plans, and then it jump cuts between this 25-year-old on a jet ski in like the Bahamas going woo. Straight cuts between the somber couple who've like lost all their money and guy who's meant to have been the one that's stolen all their money and is off jet skiing. And what's funny is that the way that they present the ad, it's very much like this guy called up, basically conned them into transferring their entire retirement fund to him, and then he's run off with it immediately. And like, it's very kind of Gen Z of me to say, but if someone calls me, you've only got about a 30% chance of me answering, and that's only if I know who it is and I want to talk to them. Yeah, so I'm already safe from that risk because I'm not answering the phone. But if I did answer the phone and it happened to be someone trying to sell me, so like I'm doing like a load of research before I give anyone any money, right? Especially like retirements, investments or stuff like that. Like there's no amount of smooth talking you can do to get me to like give you my investment portfolio, right? So the like my threat model, which is sort of what we were talking about there, is distrust of everything, both online, on like especially on phones. Email is, my god, I'm not touching anything in there. And any sort of financial
position, as it were, is something that I'm researching quite thoroughly before I put any money behind it, or transfer any money in. So yeah, it seems weird for me to have what is a relatively strict threat model, as it were, to what appears to be people who have no concept of a threat model at all. Opinion on Atomic Heart. So I haven't played it, but I have watched an video from Aculite, a Canadian YouTuber, and it does look quite cool. I don't know that I would go so far as to buy it, right now. Maybe when it's on sale, sure. But it looks quite cool. The mechanics seem pretty interesting. Although, what is it? It's on Game Pass if you have that. Nice. A lot of people have said Game Pass is great, so the only problem is I really, really, really hate Microsoft. So I don't have the Microsoft Store or anything, or so I don't know. You might be able to sideload the Game Pass app actually through PowerShell, the same way they did with Windows Terminal. But yeah, I always answer my phone. If it's a scam, I always troll them. Nice, fair. Fair. So you have limited Windows experience? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Yes, quite happily. In fact, actually, it was Essentialist here. So I right, a few steps back. I had an issue with my Unraid NAS where I run a Pi-hole in a Docker container, right, which is really useful, works really well, it's fantastic, I love it. However, Docker on my Unraid NAS decided to shit the bed, is how I can describe it. It decided that all Docker containers should have a read-only file system, which meant that the Pi-hole didn't work anymore, or gradually got worse. And it also meant that I couldn't remove the Docker container, I couldn't restart it, I couldn't do anything with it. So I upgraded the OS version, and that rebooted the server, and that fixed the Docker container problem. And then while I was there, I also remade my Windows VM that I run on it as my sort of Windows server. It's not running Windows Server, but Windows Server. And Essentialist recommended the IoT version of Windows 10, which is basically a super stripped back. There's no telemetry, or there's a load of crap in it basically, and it's fantastic, and I really like it. I'm still only using that for the VM basically, which is just going to run a few Windows specific sort of servery things. So I've got 2 Linux VMs running it, or Ubuntu VMs, as well as Home Assistant running in as a VM as well, as opposed to a Docker container. But yeah, you're right. I haven't actually. It's going a bit yellow compared to the hoodie. Then click the sponsored links in the description if you fancy. Feel free. I still have new unboxed motherboards from my i7 860 days, so I also have a board to test with, even new memory. Damn, that's good. I have a load of motherboards, but a lot of them don't work anymore. As I keep finding out when I try and go test them and stuff. Hello Joe, how you doing, man? How's things? I really can't read. Where am I at? Unless I'm expecting a call, usually let them go to voicemail. Yeah, same. Because then if it's if it's someone that I should be talking to and they leave a voicemail, listen to it and call them back. But if it's scams or whatever, they don't bother. Don't buy a 3070 water block. They are crud, as the power cable will not fit after the card is installed onto the port in the back. Port blank stopper covers where power cable is supposed to fit. So it sounds like the thing with water blocks is that they're designed for specific specific versions of cards. So there is a reference design PCB that a lot of manufacturers do use, but especially for the higher end cards, they tend to design their own PCBs with, extra power stages, or like move things around, make the PCB a little bit longer or shorter. So it sounds like you have a non-reference PCB and a reference water block, which is why the two aren't fitting together. You'll need to buy the right water block for the card you have. It's not just 3070, it's specific. This was for the 3070 FE. Okay, so in that case, you have a reference board, but I assume a non-reference water block. It could also be you got, you were sent the wrong one, or that from whatever, I don't know what brand you were buying from, isn't as good as, I don't know, EK or Alpha Cool or something. Or I think Fantex and the Corsair do water blocks for GPUs. They might do. But yeah. It was standard reference from Watercool UK. I've had some interesting experience with Watercool UK. It was a very long time ago, but they didn't, at the time anyway. My memory of what what experience I had has long since gone apparently, but they didn't seem the most trustworthy at the time for whatever reason. We have compulsory super in Australia paid for the employer into approved funds, and no chance of getting ripped off. A lot of places in the UK do that with like employer contributions to your pension and stuff. But I assume this was like private investment savings that people are getting ripped off of. I heard a problem with the PS5, people trying to get them fixed, and they're overheating, problems not having liquid metal, is melting because it's vertical. What is the truth? So I don't have a PS5, none of this is first-hand information, but I have seen a few videos, especially from, what's his name? Tektronix Fix? Something like that. Or Tronix Fix. I think that's it. Anyway, that's the one where he he repairs stuff like games consoles quite a lot, and he got 3 or 4 or 5 PS5s and took them apart, looked at the liquid metal, and so while I think on some units, some people have found that liquid metal is not necessarily leaking, but is pulling towards the bottom if you leave it vertical. What often happens with liquid metal in general is that it's a bit more of a high maintenance type of HIM, or thermal interface material. With thermal paste, your only problems are it dries out, stops being quite as efficient, and then starts cracking and breaking apart. But most of the time, as long as the cooler stays rigidly in place, it's not that big a deal. But with liquid metal, because it is literally liquid metal, and it will change its physical properties depending on, say, temperature. It can move around a bit, and especially if the dies aren't the right shape,
So you can have effectively slightly domed dies, or you can have slightly concave dies, or perfectly lapped dies are great, but you generally don't find that in production type. That's normally you do that yourself. What can happen is it then sort of slides out to the edges basically and creates a dry spot in the middle. And that is what he found the majority of the time in the consoles that he took apart. It does, so you can fix it. You can basically just use a cotton bud, whatever, to re-wet the area with liquid metal. But as a general, especially with liquid metal, the having it in a flat orientation rather than vertical is probably better. I don't think that it's going to kill your PS5 to have it vertical, but it may help extend the lifespan and prevent that dry spot from occurring quite as badly. I think he did also say that a newer serial number version was better than an older serial number version. But you should probably just check out the video from him, because everything I'm saying is just badly relaying what he said, right? So go check his video out. David Evans, you mean thermal paste? Unless I misspoke, it is actually liquid metal. It's what metal is it? It's not mercury, and I don't think it's gallium, because gallium eats aluminium, and aluminium is used in the heat sinks. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is actually liquid metal. There is, of course, thermal paste, but both of those are sort of valid thermal interface materials. And yeah. Does a PC building website have DDR5 motherboards? I tried to build one, but only found DDR5. Do you mean a PC, like a system integrator in Saudi Arabia? Because if that's the case, I'm afraid I have zero knowledge of system integrators basically outside the UK, because system integrators tend to be basically local to the country rather than, it's not like, I don't know, someone like Corsair or whatever who offer pre-built PCs to anywhere. It is normally a country-specific thing. But there are plenty of DDR5 motherboards for, obviously all AM5 motherboards will be DDR5, and a number of Z790, actually Z690 as well. B650 and B7, no, God, these naming schemes. B760 and B660, there are also DDR5 versions of those boards. By the way, I asked about the weather because woe is me, I'm becoming a person who likes sunshine and the outside just so I could ride my bike. Fair play, fair play. Zig says, "Psst, Andy, don't tell anyone. I have a fantastic investment deal I'll let you in on. Just send me all your banking details and I'll do it all for you. It's a 500% return in a week. Honest. Oh, wow. I'll get that. I'll get right on that." Joe, anything exciting happened this week? Besides me being in excruciating pain this morning from my eye, probably not. I did, on its little locked is. I redesigned the OSRTC Pro board. So where's a built one? So the standard version, or the original version, uses this absolute pain in the ass 28-pin TTQFN28 chip. I've redesigned it to use a slightly different chip, which is this one, which is a lot easier to solder, because guess what? You can actually see the pins. The only problem is that I forgot to order the stencil, basically the bit of, in my case, steel, that's been laser cut with all of those pads on it, and then you basically lay that down on top of the board, spread solder paste on it, and then when you take the stencil off, each of those pads has the sort of perfect amount of solder paste, and then you just drop all the chips on, and then use hot air to solder it down. Because I didn't have that, I tried to sort of do it freehand with this one, and it didn't work, so this board currently doesn't work. Technically, neither does this one. I need to take that chip off again, try again, but this new design, once I have a stencil, which should be coming sometime next week, will be much easier and more repeatable for me to manufacture than the original one, which is always nice. And they've been flying off the shelves. I've sold 6 this month, which is crazy for me. Oh, go, and you go there. So yeah. I turned on my main PC today, 400 plus emails waiting for me, and Windows updated. Too scared to open Steam or Blizzard due to the updates there too. Yeah. Maybe you need to rethink your motherboard filing system. Well, so a lot of them are out, but a lot of them are still in their boxes, like in their ESD wrap, you know, that sort of stuff. It's just the age gets to them, basically. God. They've misjudged the situation as a whole. PS5 is a games console designed to be plugged in and plug and play. Not everybody is going to know to repaste it, respread it, etc. So they're shooting themselves in the foot. It says if the machine fails outside of warranty, then they actually win in the end, like a slow fail, like paste, might never get detected by normies. That's a fair point-ish. So yes, well, so what you're essentially talking about there is sort of planned obsolescence, right? It's them somewhat, not necessarily deliberately in this case, maybe, but them going, well, the warranty is 2, 3, whatever years, and as long as it lives for that long, we don't really care what happens to it, because if it breaks, like, if it completely, you know, if the TIM all falls out, the chip overheats, and then it dies, oh, well, guess you're gonna buy a new one, right? Joe, you are very much right in the sense that something like a PS5 is not something that you would expect anyone to take apart. Like the you know, the average owner, or realistically anyone, because it does have a warranty void if removed sticker on it, which I would argue shouldn't be a thing that they're allowed to do, and I think in some states in America they're not. But anyway, it's not something that the average owner is going to know to do, let alone you know, whatever. Like with a PC, it's quite easy to like install some diagnostic tools and you know, what you call it, check, you know, what temperatures you're running at and whatnot. In fact, I think Task Manager, maybe it's on like Windows 11 or a newer update than I have, but I think in Task Manager it does show temperature, at least for the GPU. No, it shows for the GPU. Yeah. My GPU is at 47 degrees right now. So, you know, it's literally built into Windows, so it's easy for you to work out, you know, what's going on there. But with the console, unless there is some diagnostic test that you can run to check stuff, it's a lot harder to know, and so it's even more of a barrier, essentially, to people being able to preemptively fix that before, you know, something goes bang. Does the PS5 have some form of monitoring setup? I've not used a PlayStation since the PS2. My dad had a PS3 for a bit, but I didn't really use it much. And then I didn't have a PS4 or a PS5, so pretty much the same. Maybe someone more informed can tell us. So what do you think about this outside thing? Probably the same as I, only on four wheels. Well, I haven't been out on my bike very much. It's actually been quite a while. I've not really had the. I mean, it's been over winter, so that's one thing, and also I. There are a lot of barriers to me riding, including pain and work, among other things, on top of environmental factors like weather. So I'm not sure, but yeah, we go for a walk every day, which is always nice. Come rain nor shine, good bit of exercise. But yeah, that's about it. Have I been playing on the Steam Deck? If so, which games? I actually haven't played it. Played it in a week or two. I have been remarkably busy with everything under the sun. Actually, so one of the things with the response time tool is that it actually does a little bit of data collection for me. Nothing sinister. It just basically uploads the results for any test you do to me, essentially. And what I'm planning on doing with that data is having basically a response times database where you can go to the site and look up whatever monitors we have test data for, and see how they perform, see how they, what sort of performance you can expect, what the best overdrive mode is, at least from our test data, compare different monitors, that sort of stuff. That's what I've been working kind of non-stop on for about a week or so. It's been in the works for months, if not a year at this point, but the thing with me is once I get a hyper fixation, things get done. But if I'm not hyper fixated on that goal, then things don't get done. So yeah, it's in the works. It's actually a lot closer now than it was before. And so while I can't give you an ETA or anything like that, and the plan is to sort of launch it as a the minimum viable product, sort of a relatively basic site, and then we'll add stuff to it later. I'm hoping that it's not too far away. So I've been kind of inundated with that, I'm afraid. The server that they put in are Dell. They look good, work good, and generally reliable. Old server was IBM, which is over 20 years old. Nice. Do you have any idea what server, hardware wise and stuff? I don't know if you do, but fair enough. So Andy, when are you gonna summon a Wendell in a server cabinet to gift you half a petabyte of sponsored Seagate drives plus the server? Okay, pie in the sky dreams, but I gotta dream big. I mean, that would be great. I'd love some more storage. I am actually planning on building a backup server for me to keep remotely. I think it's just going to be probably 3 18 terabyte Seagate Exos drives. And that with the provision to add more, I think it would just be a single parity disk, and then 2, so be sort of RAID Z1, because I'm planning on using TrueNAS Core, which is FreeBSD based, but also ZFS. And then have it rsync my stuff maybe nightly so that I don't end up with too big of a gap, and then, you know, I'm clogging networks every day. Kind of backup. So, yes, but that's something that I'm unfortunately going to have to use my own money for. Oh yeah, neck and arm pain never went away from me too, but what can I do? Maybe the 25mm handlebar riser helps when I get another 100 years from my bike. Nice, yeah. I feel like a riser would probably work well for me of my SV650, to be honest, but I think that my future with the SV650S is not going to be that long together. I'm not sure. I have to think about it. It's going to cost me money no matter what I do, so sorry, I was impolite not asking. The pain you had this week a bit better now. Sorry if I missed it. What pain did I have this week? I mean, the eye pain it goes away in the sense that I take ibuprofen and then it stops being painful, and then it's sort of a bell curve to get sort of worse again later, but it's currently okay. I just can't see out of it. Like, everything's a blur. Because the front of my eye is detached, which breaks the lens part of your eye. I thought I just got an ad for a Samsung Odyssey Arc monitor. I thought the Arc would be like one of those monitors they make 10 of and don't advertise. So did I, to be honest. I would have got a Tracer if it wasn't my first bike. Also, money, right? Money. Yeah, I mean, yeah, an adventure bike is like, I think I've said before, but I have a habit of buying the best all-rounder thing. So like the S4 is kind of the best all-rounder for me. And I feel like an adventure bike is the best all-rounder for a motorbike, possibly for me. The SV650S is great, it's just I don't really fit it that well. And yeah, if I could have a better riding position, that would be nice. But then I also don't really, I'm not exactly part of a community with it, and I just don't really have the time and energy for it at the moment. And I don't really see that coming back that often. It still baffles me how difficult it is to get somewhat reasonably priced 10TB plus storage solutions online. Most ask for something like an 18TB disk price every few months for around 10TB stored plus transfer. Yes, so the thing is, the reason why I'm not using AWS Glacier Deep Archive, right, which is, I think it's only something like $40 or $50 a month to store the 20 or so terabytes I have. That's fine. Like, I can handle $40 or $50 a month if I need to. I'd prefer not to, but I can. But the problem is the transfer cost, right? So I don't think it costs anything to store data, but it does cost money to take data back out. And the cost for recovering, like if my NAS fully died, I needed, you know, I've got to buy new drives, whatever, to recover, you know, to be able to build a new NAS basically to then get my data back. Not only does it obviously cost me the drives, which, you know, whatever, I'm gonna buy those anyway, but it would cost me another £1,000 to get my data out of S3, which is such a like looming like cost. You know, like I can literally buy an entire 318 terabyte drive NAS, or I suppose build another one for that much, and it doesn't cost me anything to recover my data. Or actually even better, because I can just drive to where that remote server is, pick it up and take it home, and then local 10 gig copy all of the data from it, right? So I can recover a lot faster than, you know, my gigabit connection online, right? So that's why I'm doing it myself, because while the monthly costs aren't insane, the recovery option, like the recovery cost is insane. Backblaze B2 is cheaper. It is cheaper to recover, but it's more expensive to store. It's something like $100 or $200 a month for me to store 20 terabytes. I've looked at all of the cloud storage providers, and I'd rather not have the ongoing costs, considering I can just build another server and, you know, stick it at my friend's house basically. So yeah. Is 2 terabyte storage enough, or should I buy more? So it depends what you're doing. If you're just playing games, 2 terabytes is normally pretty fine. If you're doing things like video editing, then you probably want more. Although with video editing, I generally would recommend storing your data on a network storage drive, a NAS, because that has a little bit more redundancy in the drives. It's normally easier to back that up as well. And it means that you don't clutter up your system, so actually it's probably also fine. But yeah, 2 terabytes for gaming is normally plenty fine. $7 a month, connect and mirror NAS on your PC, problem solved. So yes, but you have to, like, their personal backup solution is doesn't work on a NAS, so you do have to have a bit of a hacky workaround to make that happen. And the problem with that for me is that I'm talking about a sort of business backup solution, and I would rather not be at risk of them just not supporting my 20 plus terabyte data habit, you know, because what do you call it? Technically sort of breaking their terms and conditions. So yeah. It was great watching you talking about monitors about 1 milliseconds, 1000 hertz, great to learn. I guess my new AOC CQ27 G2U 27-inch 1 millisecond gaming monitor, it's probably not 1 millisecond. No, anything but an OLED is not 1 millisecond. But also that's okay. I wish they would be more honest about it, but the fact that you have a curved monitor, which is the C in the CQ, means that that's probably a VA panel, which means it's probably quite slow, even on, you know, the medium or high overdrive setting. But yeah, it's probably fine. I might have actually reviewed that monitor, although I don't think I had a response time to it at the time. But yeah. Or just give up on monitor and storage and burn all your money on a bike. That's an option.
Backblaze Personal Backup also has reasonable use restrictions, such as on top of only working on basic Windows machine storage. I've been considering just building a server and then finding a cheap server hotel somewhere, but I'm not sure reasonably cheap server hotels are a thing anymore. That's certainly not something I would know of in the UK. I don't know about elsewhere. But yeah, that's the sort of the crux is that even if it works now, they can change their mind. They can change the policy. They can change their policing of the policy if they think, actually, I'm kind of taking the piss by storing 22 terabytes and growing of data there. And so for something that I need to be reliable, and honestly I can business expense the drives and that lot anyway. So with that in mind, me building another server, I can make a video about it. And so it's less of a cost issue and more of a, actually I should probably do this at least somewhat properly. What do you think of the Arctic MX6? Is it any good? I've actually not used MX6. I've used MX4 a hell of a lot, which is always good. MX5 is the slightly newer one, and that wasn't quite as good. I think MX6 went a little bit back towards closer to MX4, but still better performance, so probably fine. But like I said, I don't have any personal experience with it, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. Did I miss something? Also, hello to Astos. I didn't say hi. I did answer your question, but I didn't say hi. So hello. And hello, Litu. Did you hear about the effing Americans putting an AI in control of a fighter jet? This is fine, right? Oh, God. Actually, your question showed up here, but not on my YouTube chat. Weird. So I didn't, but that doesn't surprise me. What's more interesting is ChatGPT has been caught faking, actually Bing results as well, or Bing Chat has been caught faking scientific papers. Not the whole paper, but I think someone asked it for like scientific references that they could use in a paper they were writing or whatever, or like their university work or something, and it came up with a load of references, and so they then those people tried to that person tried to look up those papers and found that the majority of the references that ChatGPT created were plausibly fake. Like I think it was tweeted by a scientist who was one of the authors quoted in a fake paper, and so someone had used ChatGPT to generate a list of references, and then someone emailed the supposed writer of that paper asking for a copy of the paper, except that the scientist had never wrote that paper, right? But it was plausibly something that they could have written. Like it's in their area of expertise. It's just not something they actually have, tested and written about. And it if you look, the tweet basically showed all of the references and listed what were real, what were fake, what were plausibly fake, real authors of papers that in that right area, just they didn't actually write those papers. And the funnier one is that Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit, which is a great channel, you should check it out, asked Bing Chat to give him some references for video game difficulty settings, developing for video games. And one of the results, or one of the quotes, was supposedly from him. Except the link that Bing provided didn't contain a quote from him, and the quote was not something he'd ever said. So this isn't a search engine, it's an alternate reality engine at best. Like, these sorts of things are so far from being actually production ready, and there are so many, kinks that we need to work out before this is even remotely even useful, let alone taking over everybody's jobs and life. So yeah, I can only assume that the fighter jet AI is probably in the same vein. Probably a chat filter. The AI generally doesn't like me. By the way, I am human. Honest. Sure. I mostly get Thermo Grizzly. Nice. I've also heard that's good. I also don't have any experience with Thermo Grizzly. But from what I've heard anyway, Arctic MX4 is definitely an improvement over MX5. Which is, no, MX6 is better than MX5. In its consistency, its sort of shelf life, and I think its performance as well. But best to look up any reviews that have been done on it to see. Oh yeah, I bought a thing this week. Well, actually, I bought quite a lot this week. But I bought a specific thing, which is I bought a weather station, which sounds weird, I know. It's built with this little board. These are from Pimaroni, whatever. This one is built based on a Raspberry Pi Pico W, which is why it's got the. Come on. Yeah, it's really cool. Pimaroni. There you go. And so it comes with a anemometer, which is wind speed, wind direction, and rain sensor, which is quite nice. And the reason why I have that is, first of all, this is just quite cool, and it publishes to MQTT, which means I can capture the data from this in Home Assistant, which is quite nice. So I can track all that sort of stuff. And second of all, I kind of want a wind turbine. A vertical one, probably like a 3 kilowatt max rated one, but I bought the weather station to basically assess the viability of having a wind turbine in my garden, so I can see if it's actually worth doing, and if it is, then cool, I'll do it. Does it include balloons? Funny you say that. I think it was Essentialist or Chris who said that in the Discord earlier. But yes, no, it doesn't. It's very much landlocked, land bound, not airborne. MX5 was recalled because it had big quality control issues with shelf life. MX6 is a significant improvement over MX4. Thermo Grizzly are more XOC use. KPX and NTX2 are great as well. Nice. Thank you for the summary. Thermo Grizzly has some pastes that work better for normal everyday home use, but they don't make it obvious which is what. Yeah, that's kind of what I've when I've perused their wares, as it were. That's the conclusion I often come to. Yeah. Are there thermal pastes that are better than the paste that comes with the CPU? Yes. So generally, unless you're talking about the stock cooler, which is generally awful, even your CPU cooler will normally come with thermal paste, but most aftermarket ones from reputable brands like Arctic Cooling, or an Noctua or a Thermo Grizzly tend to be better than whatever the stock one is provided. The difference, like how much better they are, is normally quite small in the grand scheme of things. You're talking about 1, 2, 3 degrees, maybe 5 degrees cooler at most, which is obviously a significant improvement for a relatively small cost, but it's not the end of the world if you do use the stock thermal paste. But if you're spending enough money on your system anyway, yes, you may as well get some better stuff if you can. By the way, did you review your bike on the other channel? I didn't review the bike because I'm not... With cars, I've driven almost every supercar there is. I've driven plenty of friends' cars, I've driven plenty of my own, and so I have a decent amount of experience with driving cars, and so I have a decent understanding for what makes a driving experience good, what makes a car good in general, how steering should handle, how the throttle response should be, how the brake should feel. I feel relatively confident in reviewing cars because I have enough experience and knowledge to be able to do that. With bikes, I've only ever ridden my training bike, the 125 to get my CVT, the MT-07 to get my license, and this. And I'm really not very good at riding a bike either, so it has... for bike reviews, that's not something that I've done. I have filmed videos with my motorbike, including MOT prep and a few other bits and pieces. So it has featured on the channel. You can see images of it, but I've never actively reviewed it. And I don't think that I've filmed any or many videos while riding it because I don't have good places to put cameras, and I can't really be bothered to stick GoPros on the top of my helmet and then have a drag pulling me back constantly. And I also didn't work out a good microphone setup for it either. But yeah. So I think I did film one video with a chest mount GoPro, but it's a bit of a safety hazard really, and yeah. No worries, John. Not always everyone's preference, but yeah. But yeah, with that said, that is our usual hour, so I will leave it there. I tried the lapel mounted helmet, but it's just way too noisy, and there's not a good way to secure it to my helmet, which is the problem. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, feel free to pop back next week if you want to chat some more. These are every Thursday night at 8 PM UK time, so feel free. Otherwise, check out the Discord if you want to keep chatting. And have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll see you all tomorrow for a video, Monday for a video, and then next week for another stream. Bye, guys.